Yep, I know. Holy shit. That might be the most badass ending in TV history. But we're not here to argue about TV shows. We're here to talk about the M60 machine gun Walter White used to save Jesse. And stick around because I'm not just covering its history, I'm breaking down whether that ending could actually work. And spoiler alert, yep, it absolutely fucking could. So let's get right into it. So the M60 story begins in the aftermath of World War II, when the US military took a hard look at German machine gun designs, specifically the MG34 and the MG42, and realized something important. Those guns could do everything. They could be fired from a bipod like a light machine gun, mounted on a tripod for sustained fire, or vehicle mounted as a true heavy support weapon. The US, meanwhile, was still juggling multiple platforms for different roles. So the goal became simple: one machine gun to replace many. That project eventually produced the M60, which officially entered US service in 1957, replacing weapons like the Browning automatic rifle and the M1919 Browning machine gun. Mechanically, the M60 is chambered in 7.62 by 51mm NATO, fires from an open bolt, and uses a gas-operated system with a rotating bolt derived from the German FG-42, a design chosen for strength and sustained automatic fire. It feeds from disintegrating M13 belts, giving it serious sustained fire capability compared to magazine-fed weapons. On paper, it was exactly what the military wanted: lighter than the older Brownings, faster to deploy, easier to maneuver for infantry, and powerful enough to deliver effective automatic fire several hundred meters out. In short, at the time, it was meant to be the backbone of American automatic fire. Now, let's head over to Vietnam, since that's where the M60 really became the icon it is today. Believe it or not, infantry squads would often build their entire fire plan around it. A well-placed M60 could dominate jungle trails and absolutely shred cover that lighter weapons couldn't touch. Helicopter crews loved it too, especially door gunners, because it delivered a terrifying amount of firepower without the extreme weight of older systems. If you've seen footage of Hueys flying low with gunners leaning out the doors, odds are they're holding an M60. And when it worked beautifully. Veterans frequently described it as devastating, accurate for a machine gun, and brutally effective at suppressing enemy forces. But the M60 also earned a less flattering nickname: the Pig. Not just because of its weight, but because it could be temperamental. Some of its most common issues included fragile operating rods, a gas system that required careful maintenance, a quick change barrel system that technically existed but wasn't always quick in practice, and a feed tray design that could cause jams if handled roughly. In the mud, heat, and chaos of combat, especially in Vietnam, these problems showed up fast. A poorly maintained M60 could quickly turn into a liability, and machine gunners often carried spare parts taped directly to the gun itself just to keep it running. Despite this, many soldiers still trusted it with their lives, because when it was set up properly and fed clean ammo, again, it delivered overwhelming firepower. So why does this all matter for Breaking Bad? Well, this is where the show absolutely nails it. The M60 isn't just powerful, it's mechanically simple enough to be adapted, modified, and rigged by someone like Walter White. It fires from an open bolt, it's electronically agnostic, and again, it was designed to run hard, fast, and brutally when fed properly. This wasn't some sci-fi superweapon, this was a real, mass-produced military machine gun doing exactly what it was designed to do. Which brings us to the real question: could Walter White's truck-mounted M60 actually work the way it does in the show? And the insane part is, yeah, with the right setup, it absolutely could. What Walter builds in the final isn't a make-believe wonderwaff, it's a brutally simple application of how machine guns actually work. The M60 is mounted inside the trunk on a fixed base, already aligned toward the room before the trunk even opens. Walt isn't trying to aim at individuals, he's turning the trunk into a firing port, and the gun into an automatic area denial system. The moment the trunk pops, the weapon doesn't need to find targets, it's already pointed outward at chest height, aimed directly into a confined space packed with people. That alone removes one of the biggest failure points of improvised weapons: aiming under stress. The real genius of the setup isn't accuracy, it's traverse. Instead of firing in a straight line, The M60 is mechanically swept left to right, creating a wide horizontal arc of fire. Think less of a person shooting and more like a machine painting the room with bullets. That sweeping motion massively increases hit probability. You don't need precision, you just need volume, speed, and shock. In a closed room with limited exits, sustained automatic fire like that is devastating. People also often get hung up on the remote and say there's no way he could fire it without touching the gun, but that's actually the least unrealistic part of the entire plan. The M60's trigger is purely mechanical. If something applies rearward force and holds it there, the gun fires. And it keeps firing as long as ammunition feeds. And the show actually shows us how he's doing it. If you look closely inside the trunk, you can see a small device taped directly in front of the trigger group. That's meant to represent a mechanical trigger actuator, something that physically pushes the trigger backward when Walt hits the remote. He's not electronically firing the gun, he's mechanically depressing the trigger from a distance. No exotic electronics, no magic firing system, just pressure. The same thing a human finger would apply, only without hesitation. The duct tape isn't sloppy either. I mean, if you've seen this episode, it's not like Walt's going to be using it again. It's a single-use machine that only needs to work once for a few seconds. The actuator doesn't need finesse, it just needs to stay aligned long enough to hold the trigger back while the belt runs. And once that happens, the M60 does exactly what it's designed to do. The turret itself follows the same philosophy. Walt isn't building a precision weapons platform, he's repurposing everyday mechanical systems. The rotating mount is driven by a garage door style motor, something designed to move heavy weight reliably, and the system is actually powered by a simple car battery. Again, the key remote doesn't control the gun in any intelligent way, it's just acting like a lock mechanism, completing a circuit, and telling the system when to move and when to fire. No guidance, no targeting logic, no feedback loop, just motors, power, timing, and overwhelming force. Then there's penetration. Because the scene absolutely relies on it. Again, the M60 fires 7.62 by 51mm NATO, a full power rifle cartridge designed to punch through cover, vehicles, and barriers. This isn't handgun ammo, and it's not intermediate rifle ammo either. When those rounds start moving, furniture, tables, and interior walls stop being protection and start being obstacles that get shredded. That's why diving for cover isn't really your best option. The gun itself isn't just lethal, it's terrifying. And this is where Breaking Bad goes from great television to insane attention to detail. The Mythbusters actually tested this exact concept. They recreated the truck-mounted machine gun, built a sweeping mount, fired live ammunition, and had Vince Gilligan himself on hand to keep the test honest. When the firing stopped and they checked the targets behind the barrier, they were hit. Now, the verdict wasn't confirmed, but it absolutely wasn't busted either. The Mythbusters ruled the setup plausible, and that's the key word. What makes Walt's plan so terrifying is that it doesn't rely on perfection, it only relies on the first few seconds. Even if something jams later, even if the sweep isn't perfectly smooth, the damage is already done. The room is saturated with fire before anyone can even process what's happening. That's exactly how real machine guns dominate space. Not always through accuracy, but a lot of times through volume, timing, and shock. So, when you watch that final again, understand this. Walter White didn't get lucky, he didn't rely on TV magic, he used a real machine gun in a way machine guns are meant to be used. Well, kind of. And the result is exactly what you'd expect. And here's a little Breaking Bad trivia to wrap things up. Vince Gilligan himself has gone on record saying that the M60 was originally one of his dumbest ideas. Way back in the first episode of Season 5, he had Walter buy the machine gun. And at the time, he had absolutely no idea what Walter was eventually going to do with it. For weeks, he said he was basically freaking out, realizing he'd written himself into a corner with this massive setup and no payoff.
You introduce a gun in Act 1, you damn sure better fire it by the finale.
But when he finally came up with the idea for the trunk-mounted turret, everything suddenly clicked into place. And that moment went on to become one of the most celebrated endings in television history. If that doesn't prove Vince Gilligan is one hell of a writer, I don't know what will. Well, that's going to do it for this one, guys. As always, I hope you enjoyed it. Let me know what other TV shows you want me to cover on this channel, and if you're new here, take a look at our catalog, as we also cover movies on this channel too. If you want to help support our channel, take a look at our Patreon. It's only $1 a month, and we add extra footage and behind-the-scenes clips to the videos on there, so you get a little more value. But yeah, a link to that is in the video's description. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Check out our other videos on the channel, and hopefully we'll see you in the next one.